The hustle myth. Why Black women entrepreneurs need more than grit. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Soft Girl Era podcast. I'm your host, and today I'm absolutely electrified to share insights from my recent conversation with Latoya Foster, a visionary force who has fundamentally transformed how we understand success for Black women entrepreneurs. Latoya isn't just a business strategist, she is a revolutionary architect of possibility who has dedicated her life's work to dismantling the concrete walls that have historically imprisoned Black women's entrepreneurial potential. Her brilliance lies not just in identifying problems, but in creating pathways that honor both ambition and well being, a delicate balance that perfectly embodies our soft girl era philosophy. Through her groundbreaking programs, Latoya has helped thousands of Black women entrepreneurs not just survive, but truly thrive in spaces never designed for them. What makes Latoya's work so transformative is her refusal to accept the status quo. She challenges us to imagine a world where Black women don't have to work twice as hard to get half as far. A world where rest isn't a luxury but a birthright. A world where success is measured not just in profit margins, but in joy, health, and community impact. Let me begin with the truth that might shake the very foundation of how you think about entrepreneurship. The greatest barrier to Black entrepreneurial success isn't what most people think. It's not lack of ambition. It's not insufficient hustle. It's not absence of brilliant ideas. It's the crushing, compounding impact of systemic obstacles in access to capital and support networks that silently suffocate potential before it can fully breathe. Let that sink in for a moment. Despite a fierce desire and complete readiness among Black entrepreneurs to expand their businesses, persistent disparities in wealth, homeownership, and credit access mean many are discouraged from even approaching the funding table. Many never even attempt to secure the capital they need because history has taught them their efforts will likely be futile. This doesn't just limit individual business growth, it stifles innovation and prosperity for entire communities. It robs us all of the brilliance, products, services, and solutions that could transform our world. The narrative that hard work alone is enough crumbles when examined against the hard data. And this is where Latoya's perspective becomes revolutionary. She demands that we acknowledge and actively dismantle the structural barriers holding back Black women professionals on their entrepreneurial journeys. From my soul stirring conversation with Latoya, three essential truths emerged that I believe must be understood by anyone committed to creating more equitable entrepreneurial ecosystems. First, access isn't equal. Even in 2023, Black entrepreneurs face systemic hurdles that directly limit growth potential. These include significantly lower loan approval rates and higher discouragement due to previous denials or debt aversion. When we talk about building businesses, we must confront this uneven playing field with unflinching honesty. Second, your well being is non negotiable. As business owners, especially those who are also providers, spouses, mothers, we must intentionally carve out sacred space for self care. Latoya emphasized this truth repeatedly. You cannot pour into others if your own cup is empty. This resonates deeply with our soft girl era philosophy of releasing the cape and embracing rest as productive and necessary. Third, collective empowerment multiplies impact exponentially. Closing equity gaps in entrepreneurship could unlock hundreds of thousands of new businesses and millions of jobs nationwide, lifting up not just individuals, but entire local economies. When Black women win, communities transform. These insights aren't abstract theories, they're lived realities illustrated through powerful examples of transformation that Latoya shared. Consider the story of Walker's legacy, founded by Natalie Madeira Cofield in 2009 as a global platform for women entrepreneurs of color. The women who joined faced staggering obstacles. Less than 10% received traditional bank loans, regardless of their qualifications or business potential. But through intentionally designed community centric networking events and mentorship programs tailored specifically for women of color founders, Walker's legacy has helped over 40,000 women build sustainable enterprises that generate wealth not just for themselves, but for their families and communities. The origin story reveals the power of turning pain into purpose. Cofield created Walker's legacy after her own devastating struggles securing funding as a Black woman entrepreneur. Rather than accepting defeat, she built a solution that would help thousands of others avoid the same barriers. Today, the organization has national partnerships with the Small Business Administration, recognition by Forbes and Fast Company, and has expanded into multiple US cities. Most importantly, it has fundamentally shifted narratives around who deserves funding and why, while creating generational wealth pathways within marginalized communities. Then there's the Fearless Fund, a venture capital fund founded by Arian Simone and Ayanna Parsons that focuses exclusively on investing in women of color led startups since 2019. This initiative emerged in response to a shocking reality. VC backed startups run by Blacks and Hispanics account for less than 2.4% nationally. Traditional venture capitalists have historically overlooked these founders due to bias and lack of network connections. The Fearless Fund created grant competitions and direct investments targeting early stage companies led by women of color founders across industries. The impact: over $20 million deployed across dozens of companies since launch, with a portfolio that includes successful exits, acquisitions, and significant revenue gains. Simone and Parsons launched after witnessing firsthand how few venture capital dollars reach diverse teams despite the proven high returns potential from underrepresented markets. Their work has received national media coverage and catalyzed broader conversations around equitable investing practices. Most significantly, they've demonstrated the financial viability and absolute necessity of backing diverse leaders while inspiring similar funds nationally. A third transformative example is Black Women Talk Tech, the largest collective supporting Black female tech entrepreneurs through conferences, resources, and community building since 2017. Founded by Asosa Ighodaro Johnson and Regina Gwynn, this organization addressed a critical gap. Few role models and networks existed, and less than 0.5% of venture funding went toward Black female tech startup leaders. By bringing together thousands through national summits, workshops, and business pitch competitions with investors and mentors, Black Women Talk Tech has grown to over 6,000 members and facilitated millions raised collectively through connections made at their events. Like the other examples, this initiative was born from personal struggle. Ighodaro Johnson and Gwen faced constant rejection and isolation trying to break into Silicon Valley circles. So they built Black Women Talk Tech as an open door for others facing similar exclusionary barriers. With nationwide partnerships with tech giants like Google, Microsoft, and Salesforce, They've dramatically increased representation while normalizing success stories from underrepresented groups. What these stories reveal is something profound. When we create spaces specifically designed to address historical inequities, transformation happens. Businesses grow, communities thrive, economies expand, and perhaps most importantly, narratives shift. But there's another dimension to this conversation that Latoya emphasized repeatedly, and it aligns perfectly with our soft girl era philosophy. The journey of entrepreneurship for Black women cannot be solely about overcoming external barriers. It must also include intentional self care and boundary setting. You cannot pour from an empty cup, Latoya reminded me during our conversation. And for too long, Black women entrepreneurs have been expected to hustle harder, work longer, and sacrifice more, often at the expense of their physical and mental well being. This perspective directly challenges the toxic glorification of hustle culture that has dominated entrepreneurial spaces. It demands that we reconsider what success really means if it comes at the cost of our health, relationships, and joy. For Black women, especially, who have historically carried the weight of both racial and gender expectations, redefining success to include well being isn't just nice, it's necessary. It's about dropping the superwoman cape that many have worn for far too long until the weight of it has left permanent marks on their spirits. Latoya shared that many entrepreneurs she works with initially resist the idea of prioritizing rest and self care. They've internalized the belief that they must work twice as hard to get half as far. But she's witnessed remarkable transformations when these same women begin setting boundaries, practicing self compassion, and making their well being non negotiable. Businesses don't suffer when their leaders prioritize well being, they thrive. Decision making improves, creativity flourishes, resilience deepens, and perhaps most importantly, these leaders model a healthier relationship with what would work for everyone around them, creating ripple effects throughout their organizations and communities. This is where the personal and the structural intersect. Yes, we need policy changes, increased access to capital, and more inclusive networks. But we also need a fundamental shift in how we define success and what we're willing to sacrifice to achieve it. As Latoya powerfully stated, the revolution will not be exhausted. True liberation for Black women entrepreneurs must include the freedom to rest, to set boundaries, and to define success on their own terms. So I ask you now, what will you do with this knowledge? How will you help create a world where access to opportunity isn't determined by race or gender? How will you support the Black women entrepreneurs in your community? And perhaps most importantly, how will you rewrite your own rules around self care so that nurturing yourself becomes non negotiable in your journey toward building something extraordinary? The time for incremental change has passed. We need bold, disruptive action that challenges the very foundations of systems built to exclude. We need to fund Black women entrepreneurs not as charity, but as the smart investment it is. We need to create spaces where rest is valued as highly as productivity. The future of entrepreneurship must be built on equity, well being, and collective empowerment. And it begins with each of us making a commitment today to support Black women owned businesses, to advocate for systemic change, and to model a new way of defining success that honors the wholeness of our humanity. In the immortal words of Audre Lorde, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation and that is an act of political warfare. For Black women entrepreneurs, navigating systems not designed with them in mind, this self preservation through intentional self care isn't just personal, it's revolutionary. The question is not whether you will join this revolution, but how. The world is waiting for your answer.